Magnus had imagined with the move rook g5, and then it turns out that rook g5 was indeed a very strong move, not a mistake.
Yeah, I think Gukesh needed 4 hours on the clock, let alone 4 minutes, to find that ingenious defense with rook a5, giving up the pawn and running with the white king towards the king side. That was so tricky. And yeah, in practical terms, this one looks over. What can white even try? If you go passive, if you drop white's rook back to the second rank, you're going to die eventually. Black's pawns roll. Rook to b7, I guess, is just met by pawn to f4, but you could maybe even start a race. Maybe that's winning for black as well.
Well, I feel like if he has already given the check on a7, that probably he is planning to play rook b7. Of course, the move f4 is very much in the plan of black, and now white has to start running with the king. I only don't know that. Yes, what happened?
He dropped his rook back to a2, so not
back
going for this.
a2. Okay.
Okay, now Magnus is going to gain a couple of moves for free. Is it time to start activating the king, start pushing the pawns? Spoiled for choice.
Yes, I think like they are just coming together. Yeah, f4 is beautiful because it opens up the rook. It opens up the king's position also. For example, after f4 already e5, king f5, e4, also the king can be activated. Magnus also makes sure that after c4, there's always a rook g3 check. Actually, the more I look at it, the more hopeless it looks. I just don't see any defense for white.
You basically have no next move, as you say, Peter. I mean, next you have to move the white rook away in order to simply bring the white king back or to push c4. But I mean, that's where the rook was 3 moves ago. He's lost 3 moves for free in a race. That's essential. It feels like Gukesh panicking with the clock ticking, but understandably. I mean, it's a really difficult position. This is why we were saying earlier, don't get into these endgames against Magnus. He's going to slowly break your spirit. And he's outmaneuvered Gukesh here.
I'm thinking that maybe Gukesh was trying to, f4 played, was trying to force that king to f6 in order to go rook c2, and then try to push c4 and against rook g3 check to play the move rook c3, and close the eyes, and he believes that passive defense probably will lead to a loss, so he has to try. That's the only way, and then maybe it was important for him to kick that king away from the b pawn as far as possible.
Yeah, looks like he's got to try something like this. At least start a race, at least get a pass pawn. White's king just too far away, and you predicted rook c2 on the board. And now the question is, does black hold you up with rook g3 for one more move? Or does black just continue pushing the pawns?
I feel like rook g3 is a very brutal move, because the whole hope of white is based on the fact that you want to get counterplay. But after rook g3, you can't push the pawn, you have to fall back with the king, but then black just activates the king to e5, makes further progress, and after c4, b takes c4, we will never get any counterplay because the pawn is falling with check. Black's king is also getting much closer to the b pawn. And also one highlight that after rook g3, just let me show this move because maybe it's a little difficult to show with arrows, that even the idea with pushing the pawn with b5 runs into rook b3 check, and the pawn is falling. I don't see any counterplay for white after rook g3, and Magnus, knowing Magnus, it's just a matter of seconds when we will see rook g3 on the board.
Yeah, unfortunately for Gukesh, black's moves are also very natural, even if it wasn't Magnus right now. But yeah, rook g3 would be sadistic, just cutting across the opponent's plans. I think this one might be over by the time control. Gukesh needs a trick, but Magnus isn't feeling merciful today. Yeah, this is tough. I mean, this happens to all of us. I've lost track of the number of times Magnus has ground me down in an endgame when we play Blitz. Pieces just end up on good squares, and somehow you always end up passive against him. It's crazy, this knack he has. And Gukesh will learn from this, of course. There we go, rook g3 on the board, pinning the c-pawn.
On the board, yes.
King b2, you could tell body language there, Gukesh losing belief.
King a2, oh. King a2, ooh. Yes, because he's trying c4 and b5. I mean, this is the only chance. The only problem is that it's completely lost because black's king is just way too close to the action. There is no hope.
Yeah, that's a nice touch though from Gukesh. We've got to praise him for that. King a2 stepping out of those checking ideas that we mentioned. But still, the race is not really a race here. King e5, how difficult do you think that is for Magnus right now?
not difficult at all. It's basically the move that he would play in a bullet game. I think it's his instinct. He is just now posing, and this is absolutely correct. Why should he rush? He has 28 minutes. He feels that the position is now definitely objectively winning. He just has to make sure that he calculates some forcing direct lines. And the fact why we appreciate King e5 so much is that after c4, b takes c4, I don't know. Yes, probably white starts with rook b2 or b5, but whatever. Black's king is very much in control of the b pawn. Yeah.
You're in the square. You're in the box. King d5 looks like it's going to come.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I just don't see the drama. The fact, however, that Magnus is taking his time, it's absolutely correct. That's how you have to approach such situations.
Yeah, very professional. Pause just to double check. Don't give your opponent even a glimmer of hope. Yeah, do you think he's going to be able to fight back? You mentioned, Peter, like it's an impossible task. Nearly nobody has ever done that on demand against Magnus with the black pieces, but he's got to believe. Gukesh, he's done it before. He's beaten very strong players with black pieces.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, we have been covering the Champions Chess Tour. We know exactly what happens, and Magnus always states in every of his interview, well, if I go up on the scoreboards, then good luck to my opponents. And I hardly recall any scenario when his opponents were able to come back. It was always a question like, if Magnus has a rough start and he loses because of some mystical reasons, then he's still capable. Yeah, we always kind of believe that he can pull it off, but especially with the black pieces, how you do that, I can't really imagine.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. And yeah, heartbreak, of course, for Gukesh if he does lose as expected. And yeah, especially with the white pieces. That's why we were saying minimal risk. That tends to be the approach by a lot of top players, experienced players in these knockout formats. But he's got to this point by taking a lot of risks, Gukesh, and he's been consistent. Okay. What do you think, Peter? Should we stay here till the end? Should we check in on some of the other games?
Well, I feel like I think King e5 is like the final ceiling move, and probably Magnus will play that move pretty quickly. Now his body language, but you might know him better than me. But to me, it looks like he's about to make a move.
Yeah, let's wait for Magnus's move. If he plays King e5, I think we can write this one off as a win for Black. Just Black's king doing dual purpose work there. Anything else? Does White get a chance? I mean,
well, probably not, but then there is something to calculate at least.
Yeah, at least that would open the door slightly for Gukesh with his potential past b pawn there.
Yes, because what are the alternatives? Otherwise, Black pushes e5 or pushes King f5. I mean, King f5 is clearly inferior to King e5. The king is just further away from the b pawn. There could be a case that if Magnus feels like, you know what, I don't have to see ghosts. Let me calculate these lines like with e5, c4. I mean, after all, I'm so much ahead in all these ways. B takes c4. What am I afraid of? Yeah, b5. Where does this lead? I'm not really seeing, but I'm. Yes, I look at. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the screen, so I'm not the right. I see the engine line. So please tell me what are your instincts to be able to think like a chess player over the board.
I mean, I agree. King e5. I mean, it's kind of textbook rook endgames. You activate your king, you kind of prevent the opponent's counterplay. But yeah, here I'm just rook b2 is the only question that you could calculate. If he works out that this is winning for Black, this pawn endgame, then he could go for something like this. If not, then.
But it's only winning in one way. Everything else is a draw. So that's why I feel like, humanly speaking, you just don't want to put yourself in a shoe like this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to go for e4, close your eyes and go for e4 and calculate.
Yeah, and of course Magnus doesn't want to calculate. King e5 on the board. Course.
Yes.
Now King b2 from Gukesh. Yeah, his king could have gone to b2 last move, so I guess that's an admission, basically, that things have gone wrong.
Yeah, I mean, basically King e5 just wins the game. Now all the races are won by Black. Black gets another extra move. I think it's fair enough to move on to something else. Do you have a suggestion? Is somewhere things heating up?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about a couple of games for a while. Vidit against Abasov is still this endgame. What would you do, Peter, here? Would you try for one last trick or two? I don't see any way to keep playing, to be honest.
Yeah, it's basically heartbreaking. Yeah, that Gukesh, who has played a wonderful World Cup, I mean, he hasn't been in any danger whatsoever. He got into such a hopeless passive rook end game. Yeah, and he can't generate any counterplay. Yeah, he finally takes on b5. He had to do it. I mean, just sit and wait is equal to resignation. But Black's pawns are just way too advanced. The pawn on g2 will fall as well. Hang on, by the way, after rook b8, can Magnus even make a cause of just pushing the pawn to e2 and follow it up with rook e3?
Yeah, I think that pawn is about to queen unless white runs back with the king, but that's going to lead to disaster anyway. Yeah, maybe we put that on the board. Rook b8 would be met by e2, and that's just game over instantly.
Yeah. That's the highlight. Rook takes e3, f takes e3, and Black's e-pawn queens. And e3 on the board. Yeah.
And Gukesh gave a check.
He gave a check.
So he's forcing the black king away. But I don't think this will help Black's king advancing.
Well, now he can at least play the move rook b8, because after e2 he has a check. But, I mean, simply, it's also not obligatory for Magnus to just rely on that idea, yeah? Rook b5 check happened. Okay, king e4 will follow. Yeah, Magnus already in blitzing mode.
Yeah, I think both players know the outcome here. It's just going through the motions. Rook b8 finally on the board. He's going to try and stop Black's pawns from behind, but Magnus can grab on g2 here. Not sure what the most practical, the most professional way to finish this one off is.
Well, e2 is possible, yeah, because after rook e8 check, king d3, rook d8 check, we simply have this typical king e3, rook e8 check, king d2, and then finally we get access with the bridge on the third rank.
Zigzag.
Yes, and if white sacrifice on the e2, then we also have this monster pawn on f4 to decide the fate, but it's up to Magnus to decide which direction he goes. Everything seems to be winning, just picking up the pawn on g2 as well.
Yeah, I think we'll stay here just to see how the world number one finishes this off. I think e2 is the most direct, it's the most kind of clean way right now. Unless, yeah, I was going to say e2 unless there's king c2, but just playing for tricks, but Black can play rook to e3 there. And
let's just show this, yeah, e2, king c2. e1 queen would be a terrible mistake, might even turn in white's favor. Okay, maybe Black, thanks to the activity, can make a draw, but definitely you don't want to do that, losing a queen just like this. But the problem is, after king c2, Black simply plays the move rook e3, making sure that the e-file is blocked, and there is no way to stop the pawn.
Yeah. Might as well play one last trick, force the opponent to be a bit accurate, but Magnus has a bunch of time on the clock, and e2 is indeed on the board. Gukesh, is it time to extend